With that, I will answer any questions.
Thank you, Phil.
Good.
My pleasure.
It's really impressive to see, what a comprehensive slate of programming this is, and, the many ways that the project is, creating this sort of memory vault of all the people that have been lost and all the places that have been touched by this, atrocity in a way that is actually really beautiful. So, I mean, I'm really glad we're partnering on this for the 16-month plan. It's really cool.
Thanks, Kate.
I just want to add that by doing that, this is does not stay back in the history, but we really fast forward it to what is happening today.
Right.
And it's really important that we make that connection. I mean, this whole movement on Black Lives Matters and what has happened, it's very much connected to the history and the injustices of the past, and that we really have not yet overcome what happened. So this call for justice is an ongoing process, and we cannot afford to lose that call.
Philip, I'd like to propose another potential collaboration here, and that is the opportunity potentially to bring Bryan Stevenson here to Chestertown.
I would. That would be wonderful.
And if the college can be of use there, we do grant honorary degrees, and it seems like his work, it would be an honor for us to. I can't, there's a whole process involved there, but I think the draw of your work, the EAC, and if a number of us got together and made a pitch to him, I wonder if he would consider it, and that would be something remarkable.
We actually have some members of our group who are related to Bryan, and Cheryl Valls, who is on the board of Sumner Hall, and she was sent an invitation to the grand opening of the museum and the memorial. Went down there, so we have a connection. He is in very high demand these days, and he never accepts. I mean, the price to get him to speak is going up by the day, and he doesn't accept any of it personally. All the money that he gets goes right back into the work. He's an extraordinary person. He's so committed to this mission. But honorary degree, that could be a way to get him here. And I would love to talk to you more about that and see how we can make the ask anyway.
Yeah, well, the start would be a nomination, and to the college's honors and awards committee. That would be the start, and we might want to decide about the best way to approach that, and who that might be. But you've made some. I mean, there are some connections there too. That always helps.
Yes.
When you're trying to recruit somebody. We'll touch base on this, and maybe me and John have a little conversation about this at some point, just to see what we can.
Yeah, that would be terrific. Sherilyn Apple's another one.
Okay.
As well. So, I mean, she's the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. She leads that organization, and we have some connections with her as well. So maybe between all those connections, we can make it happen.
Fantastic. Thanks.
I'll be in touch.
All right.
Bill, question. I got a couple. For the coalition agreement, does it necessarily have to be organizations, or can just individual, like community members or citizens, sign up?
Yeah, I initially thought that we were going to have individuals sign up. It's just a lot to manage, to keep a list going. We welcome anybody to participate and join, but I just didn't really think it was necessary to have a list of individuals. I'm open to that. If others think it would be helpful, I'm happy to do it.
What was the possible date for the hearing again? That was February.
For the what? Oh, the hearing.
Yes.
Yeah, February of 2022, February 19th specifically of 2022 is the date that they have. It was supposed to be in January of this year, 2021, but it was pushed because of COVID.
Any more questions, comments, or concerns for our guest today?
It's all Peggy Christie's. She started the whole thing when she gave me that.
Thank you, Peggy. She's on. Thank you, Peggy. All right.
How do I
Thank you.
send it back? How do I give you back the?
Top right corner on my screen, click the 3 dots, and one of those options should say make host. Once again, thank you, Phil Dutton.
I don't see 3 dots. That's my problem here.
If you go to my screen, it should say mute, and beside it, it should be another box. Click on my face.
I got it. I'm clicking on your face, and I see no 3 dots.
Phil, do you see a little, there's a little box with John on it up in the upper part of the screen, like where you can see all the people that are participating in the call? If you go to his screen, it just pops up.
Got it. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. I'll make you the host. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that presentation. Good work, Phil.
All right, thanks so much.
Thanks,
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. We have right now to talk about the things that we need to advise the town on. So what I've done over the last 2 months is take a lot of the information we've been getting from community members, organizations, our conversations and meetings, and trying to go with some of the work we've done. And I have a list of things. I narrowed it down to some things for us to discuss today. So next week, when I do the presentation to the council on Monday, we have things to advise them on. The mayor tasked me with this about 3 weeks ago, actually at the last council meeting. So what's going to happen is we're going to discuss these topics, good or bad, your opinion, how you feel, and then we will take a vote on whether to proceed to advise the town on these actions. So the first one is solicitation of donations. And what that means is they can't sell items, the signs, the banners. They can't solicit money from community members. It's like, hey, pay for this. But what they can do is request donations to go to the town on behalf of the town plan. And then the money goes for things such as Legacy Day, Juneteenth, trainings, et cetera, et cetera. How do everyone feel about that? I feel like they need to do it because I want to link possibly, and this is all up for discussion, a link on the actual Chestertown Unites website and then a link on the actual town website that can send donations directly to the town on behalf of the Chestertown Unites. I think some of the issues or complaints I've heard from residents in town is they still don't feel like the town has any skin in the game, which I think might be unfair due to the budgeting, but I think it might still have some valor on that. So maybe that's a way for the town to say, hey, listen, we know we don't have a budget right now. Here's how we're trying to supplement that. So for me, I think.
Question. So can the town take online contributions?
I was about to suggest like a Cash App type of means of contribution.
We can find that out.
I mean, my question is like, so it's the town, which means like they may not have the most cutting edge technology, simply because, you know, it has to do with sort of the protocols, whatever.
Yes.
But I'm wondering, like, can you use PayPal? Like, can you donate online? I mean, if they're requiring only paper checks or cash, I mean, that might be an impediment. And that's my concern is like, yeah, we can put a link on the site, but if the link is just directives to send in a check,
Yeah.
you know, it's not going to be very effective.
No, I agree.
I don't.
Well, I thought your question, well, okay, let me see. My question is, can the town legally accept donations in this? I mean, what's the regulation on the town?
I don't want to say yes on behalf of the town, but like for the banners and signs, we're not saying, hey, we're selling these. We're saying you can make a donation to the town, the actual Chestertown Unites Against Racism, and here's what your money is going to. Some of these pillars or trainings or things. So we can't just say, hey, give money, but they can make a donation and then receive a banner or a sign. So like to you and K point, I'm not sure these are questions that we can ask at the council meeting.
I mean, Main Street's a quasi-governmental organization because Kay's an employee of the town, and they accept donations and solicit funds for different events and functions and whatnot. So she might be a good person to chat with, because if you go onto the Main Street Chestertown website, I do believe that they accept online donations through their site as well. And she might know some of the logistics and whatnot.
Gotcha. Any more questions, comments, or concerns before we put that part to vote? I vote that we advise the town to find a way to solicit donations, but leave it up to the town to figure out how.
State that as a motion. Can you state that as a
Oh,
motion?
my bad, you're right, correct. I motion that we advise the town to take donations on behalf of the Chestertown Unites Against Racism, with the donations being going to help fund the plan initiatives and in the implementation of the pillar.
I second it.
I have a second.
Can I make an amendment to that?
Yes.
Somehow it's not settling well, that's saying accept donations. Can we say accept donations for banners or products, something that we're giving them for a donation towards this?
But what
Because if we just say to make a donation, it sounds like you're saying, can you make a donation to this? What we're saying is the motion should involve what it is that we're giving them, or they're giving us a donation for the banners, the paraphernalia that we're producing.
Yes, but what if, to your point, what if someone asks, gives a donation and don't want a banner or a sign? Then that donation would go to the Chestertown Unites plan as a whole.
As a whole, so it's an open thing. Okay.
As long as the donation is going to the Chestertown Unites Against Racism, like for some signs and banners that have gotten donations. So you write your check goes to the town of Chestertown, and on the memo line, I've been instructed to request that they make it to Chestertown Unites, so that way they know what the money is for. But I'm pretty sure that's something they might can clear up. Kate?
I'll also chime in and say that, you know, when you think about like donating, we're obviously not a nonprofit, but like if you donate to a nonprofit, you don't necessarily get anything. You're just doing something because you support the work that they're doing. So in this case, because we have no budget for any of this work, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I donated, but I got a yard sign because I wanted one. But if I didn't want one, ideally, if I were just somebody that wanted to support this initiative, not just broadly what the town does, but EAC in particular and the plan, it'd be nice to throw $20 at it or something like that. And John and I have talked too about the idea of like looking ahead into the spring and potentially, and we brought this up last meeting, at like maybe even having a presence at the farmer's market or something like that to provide opportunities for people to grab a yard sign or just like contribute because they think this is important.
That's fine. I mean, if it's all, because I'm seeing it as the town of
Yeah.
Chestertown. So I just want to make sure I have it clear
And
in
I'm
my
pretty
mind
sure,
that this is something that can be done. And what I'm hearing is that, yes, it can be done, even though we're representing the town of Chestertown.
yes. And from what I understand in asking these questions prior to this meeting, I get the same view that it can be done, but that's still something we're gonna throw back to the town and let them give us the official word, because, you know, they would know more than we know. So
Hey,
I'll-
Ruth, at the heart of your question, are you wanting to make sure that, like, if, let's use me, if I hypothetically make a donation, that it actually goes to support EAC programs and doesn't just end up in like a general town fund?
Well, no, I was talking before that is, can they do that? Because
Yeah.
then it goes to this group.
But
Yeah,
and Jen, to your point, that's exactly why they want us to separate it a little bit so it doesn't get put into the you know, I guess the total pot as well. So I've been talking with Jen Mulligan, and I forgot the other lady that CC'd on the emails about how that works.
yeah.
Once again, it might just be something the town has to direct us on how to move forward. It's just
Yeah.
we want to advise them that this is something we think is important to the implementing of the plan.
It's really interesting, kind of taking a step back and thinking about how, like, again, Main Street has done some fundraising. They'll actually seek donations for specific events. So like Juneteenth, or if there was like a community block party or something, they might give people the opportunity to sponsor or directly apply funds to those events. But then if, like, say we wanted to create a special fund for the public art or the memorial markers that that you emailed us about or whatnot, people may have a passion for doing that. And so there might even be opportunities to, like, kind of like we did with the contact form, identify a few different areas where people might choose to apply fundraising to, and then maybe just kind of a general fund donation. So like give people maybe 4 or 5 options for ways that they can financially support EAC initiatives that would help people feel a sense of, my money is going to something that I really find important or I value or I really want to support.
How about instead of voting on this one, we might just table it and get a little bit more information from the town? Is that something that we think is possible?
Yeah, I wish there was a way that it didn't have to go through the town. Like, it's just a weird step.
It has to go through the town.
I think we need to, we keep talking about this, and I think we need to understand better how the town would allocate the funds and whether they have dedicated funds restrictions. Like, because we're talking about doing multiple layers of dedicated funds restrictions, like in a perfect world, which would be great to make sure that if you contribute something because you love the idea of like whatever art piece is going down at the waterfront, you can like restrict your contribution to that. But at this point, like, I mean, people are just making a line item on their check. So, I think we need to find out more, John, about like how the town will allocate contributions to make sure to understand like what is possible, basically.
Yes.
Yes, I would prefer that extra step just to make sure, because I feel that it's the town, and when we start having all kinds of projects that people can donate to, then I think there can be infiltration of political or whatever kind of, sideshow, which.
So let me make sure I'm understanding this all right. We want to make sure, first, we want to see if money can be allocated to the Chestertown Unites plan. Secondly, we want to make sure when that money is allocated, that money is for this plan and the initiative specifically, and not paying for the water bills or the streets or things of that nature. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Yes.
My only suggestion I would like to throw in there real quick is that if you're going to start to allocate funds to go to certain things, that you kind of use the KISS principle and keep it simple. Most of the time when people are donating to various things, you usually have 2 or 3 areas that you can donate to. Why create this list of places that you can donate to when in essence you're wanting to try to utilize those funds where they're needed at? And so keeping it simple and it going to the advisory committee or the initiatives would be a much simpler pathway.
Yeah, I think once we figure that out, the town might just say, we make the decision on how the money should get spent within the plan, since we're in charge of implementing it. So go ahead, Ruth.
No, I was agreeing with Reverend Fisher that you
Yes.
should, you know, once it goes to, if it's coming to this body, then they spend it as is needed for the projects that we're working on. Because if they can go a step further, then some projects may get funded and some will not get funded.
Correct.
And that's not what we want to do.
Understood. Yes. Okay. So solicitation of donations is tabled until further information is provided by the town.
Yes.
The next item, the book club, Cheryl Eiffel's On the Courthouse Lawn. We just heard a presentation from Phil Dutton and the James Teller Justice Coalition via Sumner Hall. The importance of that book, which has a lot of components, is actually in the education pillar. Cheryl Eiffel On the Courthouse Lawn, which is about lynching. Do we want to advise the town to be a part of this book club within the plan? Thoughts, comments, concerns?
When you say having the town be a part of it, like how many people?
Participate in the actual book club.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of the plan. It is like actually literally laid out in the plan. It seems to make sense to me to advise the town to participate, since, I mean, it's fully ready to go and we have all these partner organizations lined up and ready to participate, i.e. Phil Dutton and the James Taylor Justice Coalition, that we were all very impressed by. So, you know, unless anybody else objects, I'm sort of like, this seems easy, like an easy, yes, let's do this and let's move
I would
forward.
second that.
Right. I guess
Hold up, Kate. You got to make an official motion. Hey, Ruth,
I
Ruth,
moved.
I learned, Ruth.
Okay. Oh, it's my first motion. I am very excited.
The first motion. Good job.
I'm full of power. I'm drunk with power. So I move that the Equity Advisory Committee formally advises the town to participate in the book club on the courthouse lawn.
I second.
Kate, well, Mr. Queen beat me to it. I'm going to say, Kate, I'd second that for you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any nays? We will be advising the town Monday about joining.
So, John, can I just throw a question in there about that?
Yes.
I'm totally in support of it, having the town participate. Like my only concern is, like when we originally talked about this, is just the numbers.
When you say numbers, what do you mean?
Like how many people can participate in the book club? So like, what if we got like 500 people in the town that want to be a part of this book club, and then you're too big for the.
Yeah. So I got you. So because I'm the other partner with the James Teller Remembrance Coalition. Well, it's actually the Hoyas leading, but we're working with the James Teller Coalition's 50-50 on all the events around this. So we have 40 physical copies. The 40 physical copies will go to the organizations of the Bayside Hoya, the James Teller Justice Coalition in Sumner Hall, the Washington College SGA, and the Black Union of King County, and then us, the EAC. So the physical copies will go to these groups that are doing the work. What we are doing, and when I say we, I mean myself and Sybil Jones. I don't know if it's Jones. Sybil from the James Teller Coalition. is we're talking about the rollout. Kate had brought it up a little bit in the last meeting about opening it up to the public, which we are totally for. But it's how we do it and how we integrate that into all the other events, which some of them you have seen on the presentation tonight. So we're going to keep it small with the physical copy and then try to roll it out into months where I think May 15th, that date that he had, is the kickoff day for their event, but also we're going to start within the groups of reading the book. And then in June, a community dialogue or event, then in July, then in August. So that way we can add on to it as far as people in the community on joining. But we're still working on that part right now, on how.
John, can I make a suggestion? I
Yes,
think that the easiest way to do this, given the fact that I think other people in the community will be interested in reading the book, but it doesn't have to be simultaneous. Everybody can kind of form their own book club with their friends or the family or whomever, people in the church or whatever. Would just be for even for us to publish a list of discussion questions. And that way people can read it on it with a link to the book on Amazon or whatever. And people can download a copy or purchase a copy if they want. We don't have to provide it. But what we are doing is providing just a list of discussion questions. And some of those could be even like locally based, where, you know, it's not just sort of general discussion questions. It's like, how does this make you feel about being somebody who lives here in Chestertown or lives in the community? And, you know, how does it change your perception of where we live, and what would you change about how you move forward? Like to Ruth's point about what she was saying earlier, how, you know, the lynchings that happened in the past very much are impacting us today, and our legacy of the like heritage that we've, you know, we're living with on a day-to-day basis, you know, that just having a PDF that people could download from our website to allow their own discussion would be a really easy way. We don't have to like have an official forum, but we allow other people to get in on the conversation.
I don't disagree.
I agree.
We're just trying to let the organizations who are obligated to answer to that book club decide how they want to do it first, and then we can just build on that. But that's a good suggestion. The same as I think you said, like, I don't know if it's called Kindle, where you get it. You said that last month, I think. All of those have been reported to the group. I know we talked about your last one, but they're open to it. So I don't see why they would say no to that. Like, or we, because I'm a part of that one, would say no to that. Any more questions, comments, concerns? All right, for this one, the Jedi training of Washington College. For this one, I'm going to actually turn this over to Vic and Ruth to talk about a little more before we discuss how we proceed with that, so we can get a little background and information on the process of the trainings. Vic, Ruth.
You want to start, Vic? Go ahead.
Okay, sure. So we engaged with a newly launched initiative at the college called Jedi, which is beginning to offer these sessions internally to the college. And Ruth and I approached the person who's been managing this effort, Professor Emerald Stacy, about the possibility of extending some of these sessions to town and to the community. And she was very enthusiastic about this. There are 4 topics that they are currently prepared to offer. Ruth and I attended a trial run of the session on anti-racism, which still being they were practicing it essentially, and so there were some things to work out. But I think both of us felt there was a lot of promise there in terms of how that could be used in the town and the community, and start a conversation. So this group is willing to extend these, and we are recommending 2 of these sessions for the town: anti-racism and identity and privilege. And our thinking was that for this committee, it would be an important gesture to not make a recommendation that town council and mayor take these trainings, but that we ourselves would sign up for it and participate, perhaps with them, or also take this opportunity. And then the idea was also put forward to have the full range of sessions made available to the community in advance of the Juneteenth celebration.
Do you have all 4 of the titles of the trainings, or just the 2 that you all attended?
Do I have them on? Do you have them on you, Ruth?
I could fish them up, but
Anti-racism Anti-racism,
Anti-racism.
Yes.
Microaggressions.
yes.
Oh, Claire is there. There you go.
Aye.
You have that.
Yeah, anti-racism, microaggressions, courageous conversations, and power and privilege.
There we
Okay.
go.
Okay.
Thank you, Claire.
Thanks, Claire.
No
So,
problem.
Yeah, I'll just add to what Victor said. My experience from attending the one session was that it was good. It's a new way of looking at diversity training, which I thought was good. It sort of walked people through their own thinking on the matter of race, what is anti-racism, what is non-racism, because we've heard terms. I'm not a racist, but what does that mean? So I thought that would really be a good way to engage the leadership of the government leadership of this town, and other leaders as well. I thinking also that it's not just training, it's also training for African Americans. So I would fully expect participation from them, because we need to know what is the diversity training about? What role do we play? How do we not just become not the objects of these sessions, but subjectively, and how do we respond? So there's work for everybody to do when there is diversity and inclusion. And we're focusing on race, but the Jedi training is not just race, it's race, gender, religion, what we would consider the other. So I think it's something we should do. The opportunity we have of using the Washington College team is that we can tailor it to the Chestertown community. We know the community.
Yeah.
We can change the approaches. We can have more people involved. And it's also a program that from the delivery of these sessions, there should be African Americans involved in delivering the program as well as whites. So it has to reflect what it's presenting. So we're going to ask for a little bit of tweaking in those areas. Overall, I think it's good for the leaders. We should all participate, and it should also be offered to community people.
Yes.
May I ask, are the presentations that's already been made and the ones that's forthcoming, are they actually being presented on platforms like YouTube or things of that nature, so that in the event that you're not able to actually attend the event that night, they can still be viewed?
It's virtual, or if you're not able to log in virtually, Victor, I don't know, it could be on YouTube in a closed, it would have to be a private YouTube, so they could send you a link. This might be proprietary material which you can put out on an open YouTube platform.
It is on Zoom, which means that it can be recorded, as we're being recorded tonight. The nature of the conversations was intense and personal. And people are talking about difficult things, so it might change the way that people interact if they know that it's possibly going to be shared. So I think that possibility is there, but I think it would have to be a decision made by all participants.
Mm-hmm.
I fully understand.
Yeah. I think the alternative would be, and this is I don't know, we'd had time to offer several sessions of the same topic, which is what they're doing now. So if you miss it the first time, there's an opportunity to catch it. But it's a in the moment learning experience.
Can I ask how long was the training?
It lasts, I would say, an hour and a half.
It was over 2 hours.
Over 2 hours?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good. It is not ultimately supposed to last that long. It was a trial run, and I think there was a lot of content and a lot of conversation that it expanded. I think it was envisioned to be an hour long. I think 90 minutes is probably where it would end up.
Do you believe that it was? Do you believe that it was based on the current events that's taking place now, George Floyd, even the COVID situation? Do you think the intensity came out of so many protests and responses as to what's been in the news of late?
One of the most remarkable pieces of that particular session was a case study about the student demonstration at the college last February.
It's an echo, somebody.
Okay, is that better? Yeah,
Yes.
sounds like that's better. There was a case study of the actual student demonstration at the college last February, in which the students occupied the theater during the college convocation and issued a letter of grievances and demands that the college has been working through responding to over the past year. Yes, deeply, things that have been happening in the last year, including right here. There's also discussion of the student experience of pickup truck driving through campus, yelling racial epithets, and a couple of other situations. So it's even more close to home in some ways. And that created, and at least in this version of it, some of that intensity and emotion as people were talking through the meaning of these events. I hope that's helpful.
Sure. I just, while we were dialoguing tonight, I thought about, and I know this is probably not the platform for it, but I would love to hear your thoughts and other members' thoughts that are of a lighter family skin tone than myself, why you actually think that racial equality has taken so long. I would love to have that. I would love to hear your take and others on what you actually think is the reason for how we have not been able to bring solutions to this systemic issue. Another day, another time, but I would love to hear you all's thoughts on that.
I just say that that's one of the topics for Courageous Conversations. And that's one session.
That's actually, I lead that session, or I co-facilitate that session.
There's Claire. Yeah.
Who is that? Was that Kate?
No, that's Claire.
Sure.
Claire.
Claire, where you at, Claire? Let's give Claire the floor for that real quick.
Hey,
What's going on? How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I wasn't planning to be on camera, so I apologize for my background.
Oops, our fault. Go ahead.
No, so yeah, the anti-racism training is really great. They have spent a lot of time really focusing on a lot of the core issues, and their case studies seem to be much more focused. And I don't want to say that they can't change, but they've just spent a lot of time working on the situations and the case studies that they have. In Courageous Conversations, one of the most important things in developing these sessions was making sure that they were dynamic. So we wanted to make sure that we could deliver them very easily to handle situations that came up with students on an athletic team, with members of the faculty talking about, having versions of Courageous Conversations with students over on a number of things, whether it's racial identity, gender identity, sexual orientation, class, religion, ability. So we have a wide array of situations and topics that we can talk to our audience about and really fine tune them to address more of those issues. And the anti-racism training is great. It's very unique in, I think, how specific the examples are. Whereas in a lot of the other sessions, they do change, session to session based on the needs of the participants. Not to say that the anti-racism training isn't going to do that and that they're not going to bring in more, I think for the town, they would have to bring in, a more local example than, talking about the student protests, because that's not something that's going to resonate as much with this community. I think one of the things that they might talk about would be, the white truck incidents that happened, where there were the young men in town who were harassing young women of color on campus from the white truck. So like that might be something that gets brought up. But yeah, they're really meant to be dynamic.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, Vic and Ruth, how do you feel about proceeding with this? Oh, before that, any other questions, comments, concerns?
I have one.
Yeah.
One general comment or request that I would make, and I think Reverend Fisher was kind of hitting on, sometimes access to meetings and events are a little hard for all of us who are not retired and have day jobs. And so I would just put in a gentle plug for all of us who have to do all of our other life things after 5 p.m. And maybe if there could be an evening session offered, because I know I'd love to participate, but I unfortunately don't have a job that allows me to just kind of disconnect for 2 hours during the day. So you'll get 120% of my attention after 5:30 p.m. If we could do like a nighttime event. And I'm sorry to be high maintenance, but a lot of working people, I think it's part of why we see less like 20, 30, 40, 50 something year olds participating in meetings in town, because they're all held at like 3 p.m. when most of us can't check out of work. So I just put a gentle plug in for those of us who are still unfortunately fully employed.
All right. Look, Chairman want to grab control of the meeting. We're going a little long. So for that, I do understand everybody's point, but let's keep in mind, this is for the council first, even though of course we're a part of this and we're all going to take a part of being in these trainings, but we'll work that out once the town make their decision on how they proceed. So Vic and Ruth, before anyone motions, let me make sure I understand this part. You want to advise the town on 2 of the 4, and the 2 are identity and privilege and anti-racism, correct?
Yes.
And then possibly moving on, offer all 4 to the community prior to Juneteenth. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Right.
Okay. Any more
They
questions?
would be open to join in as well, because it would be very good for the council to have all 4 sessions. I know
Yes.
it's a lot of their time, but the encouragement is that they, along with the community, would
Yes.
be invited to.
I think that's an important point, because part of the power of these conversations comes with the mix of people that's in the room, hearing each other talk. It's not just people talking at you, it's people talking with each other.
Mhm.
And I think that's part of the power. So I would second Ruth's point there.
Agreed.
Guys, I'd like to, sorry, John. I would really like to see this go one step further. So this week, the Chestertown Spy put out an article that Mayor Serino announced that he wouldn't be running for re-election. So we know that in the next year, 3 of our town council members are up for re-election. And while I think it's incredibly important that our town council, agnostic of who they are, participate in these trainings, I also think, and Reverend Fisher, I'm going to touch on a question you just asked. When we think about why equity isn't addressed, it's because we maybe don't address some of the adjacent or systemic roles within the community that touch other community members in these types of trainings. We always go straight to the leader, but sometimes we miss those other people that are in high visibility or high contact roles, like, you know, the person who answers the phone when people call into the town for help and support, the person who, you know, maybe addresses community complaints at the police department. So there might be some additional roles beyond the town council that aren't as variable as the election process, that may benefit from these trainings, so that regardless of who's sitting on the town council, this has more legs, and outside of just a community training. So when we think about the recommendation to the town, perhaps it's, if someone has a high contact community role, they should be a priority alongside the town council for participation in these trainings.
Yes. Actually, in my meeting with Vic and Ruth as a follow-up, they brought that up too as well, Jen, to your point. Not only to just the mayor and council and town leadership. And that's, you know, what we have to discuss about what we mean by leadership. But to that point, they definitely touched on that too. It is in my notes for that. If it was to make it to that, yes, that is being addressed, Jen, specifically, yes. Vic or Ruth, do you want the honor of bringing a motion?
I make a motion that the JEDI program, the training program that EAC will use, and we recommend that the town council attend the first 2 sessions on anti-racism and identity
And privilege.
and privilege. Period. Then the community leaders and community at large will also be invited to attend the sessions before the Juneteenth celebration.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, we will be advising the town on taking the training. Community dialogue. I'm gonna speed this up a little bit, you all.
I'm really sorry, but I have to leave. I was hoping we'd be done by now, but
Yes,
I have another group of people waiting on me. So-
understandable. Listen, I'm gonna pull a rabbit out the hat. I'm gonna try to get us out of here by 8:30. Watch how it works. Check this out.
Are you saying in 8 minutes, if I stay? 8
Yes,
minutes to be
yes.
done?
Yes. So the next thing we want to advise the town on is community dialogue. And when I say advise the town, advise other members. Chris Serino has been very active in this process. Councilman Tolliver has been to multiple meetings, and he actually participated in the event with Tom Hurst. I would like to advise the town to have the other 2 council members who haven't participated in the plan yet to be a part of the community dialogue next month with Washington College. For me personally, even though I hear this, but it resonates with me, the community want to see our leadership involved in these things as the process goes. Not just be there in the beginning or at the end and never take the journey with us. So I brought that up as something we can talk about tonight. But for me, it would be advising Megan Eflin and David Foster to attend the next community meeting with the Washington College students in a dialogue based on the race, the town component, and then the students and community building a bridge.
John, I'm sorry. I think that, and I only say this because I believe Megan is highly engaged and interested in this process. You may be running into the same reason why.
Who is Megan?
Megan Eflin, she works full-time. And so when the dialogues are held at like 3 p.m, it may be a barrier to her participating. So it may be, I agree that we should encourage them to participate. But we may want to check in with her because I believe that this is something she would attend if she could attend. And the timing is a barrier.
They're at 6:30 at night. I think 6:30 to 8 o'clock.
Okay. I thought the last one was like afternoon or something, or it was like,
No, no.
like 5 o'clock or something, but she works out of Chestertown and she commutes back.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? I bring a motion that we advise council members Megan Eflin and David Foster to attend the next community dialogue with various partners, but Black Union and the Washington College SGA.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I don't oppose. I would like to broaden that. I would like the town council to attend as a team.
They
All of them.
can't, legally they can't, because they can't have more than 2 people participate, because it comes into the public law, like whatever that's called. That's why in the first one, I offered it to all, but only Tolliver and hers were able to participate, because if they had more than 2, it's in violation of the public rule or something for council. It's an actual rule.
Really? Who
Yes.
knew?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because what it is, if you have 3 councilmen or 4 councilmen, it's like a public meeting for them. So I knew I only could have 2 in the first one, because that was the problem. We couldn't have more than 2 because of that rule, whatever that rule is. So
That's so
why-
weird. Okay. Then I agree.
I don't really have an opposition, but I'd love to see it worded so that it's not that it doesn't seem like it's forced upon them,
Or single
but
them out.
encouraged,
Yes.
encouraged on the basis that their participation would be seen from the public as showing goodwill and interest in the improvement of our community.
And that's exactly how I will word it when I talk to them. I
I
like that.
support that motion.
Yes. We're gonna make that the official motion. That's the official motion.
That amendment. I'm
second.
supporting
Oh,
Reverend Fisher's
amendment.
amendment. I almost said that. That's what happens when you're trying to leave a meeting.
Yes. Look, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? The next thing is the historic signage. This is something that's going to take more time, because actually tomorrow, myself and the mayor are meeting with the citizens for historic signage and for the public. One of the pillars, I'm not sure, it might be in the unification pillar. The historic sign is like markers that you see around town in various cities and towns that commemorate locations or dedicated to history for the African-American community. We actually have 3 citizens who will fully donate the first marker. What we're in now is discussions of where that marker may go. And when we, if it makes it to advising the town, we all read that, right? The actual marker, yes. How do you all feel about the marker in that wording and presentation of that?
I'm assuming that the wording on the marker is open to changes if possible?
Yes,
Or is that exactly the way they want it with no changes?
I think it's something we can discuss, but along the lines of what we read, but I think it could be changed. It's open for discussion. Myself and the mayor are meeting with them tomorrow to discuss locations and to discuss like tweaks, like you said, in detail. So that way I'll have enough information on behalf of the town. But this part will be an email correspondence between us after tomorrow's meeting, because we didn't get it before today, but we fill in the blanks on the rest of the information. So that way, before we advise them, we fully have all the information in our perspective or their perspective fully known.
I would just add, I think it's a great initiative. I hope it's just a start. I know in conversations with the history project at the college, There's interest and ideas about other ways to memorialize in an artistic way through some kind of artistic memorial. So that's my feeling, is that this is a great start. I hope there's more to come here, and an opportunity for people to get creative and collaborate on this. So thank you.
This is a start.
John, can I just comment
Yes.
to respond to what Vic just said? Vic, I'm on the committee that Ben Tillman has formed with other members of the community, artists, community members, members of the Black community, you know, arts organizations, to talk about what type of work to install at the foot of, whether it's the foot of High Street or another location. So that'll be something that the group hasn't met yet, but as it does, I will report back to the committee to keep everybody informed on what conversations the group is having and the direction that the work is going.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
I think it's incredibly important, and I think it's long overdue. And so I really think that Karen and the team should be applauded for their willingness to, for everybody's,
No names.
oh, sorry, for nobody's names to step forward and work on this, and their willingness to help fund it. When we talked about donations earlier, this is something very concrete that I think, you know, I know John and I would gladly support something like that, and might be able to be accelerated if folks knew what the cost of these things were. The one thing that, John, I know y'all are talking tomorrow about locations. One key learning I think we all took from the Black Lives Matter mural is that location is very important to folks, and the unnamed individuals who put forth some recommendations on where the the memorials might go made some very strong recommendations for that. And I appreciate that there are some concerns regarding who owns what land and where, but I think that this is a moment where we might need to be brave and bold and go before those individuals to ask them to make the space for these memorial markers.
When you say individuals, who are you referring to?
Well, like, there's a lot of question marks around who is responsible for the foot of High Street. So like the county commissioners in some areas, like, and it varies by literally feet. The county commissioners are responsible for the foot of High Street in that parking lot up to the customs house. And then it also kind of is adjacent to some private people's property as well. But then on the marina side, it's the town, but it could be mixed up with other markers and whatnot. So if it comes down to going to the county commissioners, then I think that this committee should be ready to make a recommendation to the town to go before the county commissioners to get their support to install the marker.
I would be against that personally.
Would you?
Yes, because it's Chestertown unites against racism, not King County unites. We got to be very clear on.
You're spot on, but the county owns the land. So
go ahead.
The county owns the land. So we're not asking the county, although, I mean, I think we are asking the county to unite against racism. But if we're talking about a marker at the foot of High Street, one of the barriers to that is that the town does not actually own that land. And so as we're looking at locations and we're making recommendations on those things, one consideration may be that we might have to take it one step further in order to achieve the location that has been identified as the #1 spot.
Yes, but if you're talking about the actual donors, that's what they would like. They are open to about 6 locations. That's why we're going to talk about them tomorrow, because what we don't want to get into, Chris Areno don't want to turn, this is his words. I hate to do this, say his words, because he's not here, but he doesn't want to turn it into the town versus the county over this issue. When the town has several locations that they are willing to have this marker or several markers put. I think on behalf of the town, they might want to be the ones that say, yes, we're doing this. And because Cannon Street is an option. The old Lawyer Road Street, because it used to be Black Homes, is an option. It's a couple of other options that they have where Foot Street was not the end all be all. They were open to that. So I don't know if the town wants to go back and forth with the county. For me, I would say my vote would be no to go to the county, because it's just going to put us in a grinding tire moment when we don't have to do that, when we have plenty of opportunities and space to put it somewhere where the town has that control.
I guess my question is, why wouldn't we give them the opportunity to say yes? Like, how do we know that they're going to say no? I mean, it's a very important space. There's a damn statue of a goose sitting there. How do we know they would say no if we don't ask?
What if I ask, what makes the foot of High Street prevalent to the African American community?
Historically, or in the context of the memorial marker?
Everything historically, where the marker is, what makes that certain spot the end all be all for the African American community, when a marker could go at a place like the old Uptown Charlie Gray's place. The Black community might appreciate that. It can go on Cannon Street. They might appreciate that. Like, why would?
Well, if I'm thinking about the context of the copy that we read, like the first marker, it's about the first piece of land that people who were kidnapped stepped onto.
Okay.
And so it's the marker for the very first place that a human being who was kidnapped and stuck on a ship and enslaved and brought here stepped onto land before being marched up to the custom house, where they were then held. And so I think in the context of marker one and the importance of location, that this is a particularly sensitive spot and a very sensitive topic in a way that's different than putting a marker on Cannon Street to remember that there were Black homes and businesses there.
You know, I would actually agree with her.
This is the most uncomfortable thing I think I've ever had to like put my hand on. So
well, that's okay. I'm gonna sort of come to your rescue here.
Thank you.
Because her point is well taken, that although it may not be situated in a predominantly Black or African American community, wherein that they have something that's a memorial, but you actually have the bridging of races where at the foot where it all began is a place where a lot of people go down to the foot of High Street, spend some time just hanging out in that small area. And it's a visible means of others other than the African American community of being able to have a dialogue or to have a presence of something that is an indication of this town is trying to heal, this town is trying to improve, this town is trying to address racial inequities. That's just my point. My plug.
Chime in here? Like, I think everybody's raised some really good points, and they're all in the notes. But one of the things that I say is, it seems like there's still further conversation that's happening around this group and possibilities. I think it'd be worth getting an update on what happens, I guess, tomorrow or later this week with some of their further conversations.
It's tomorrow.
Okay. And I mean, John, I think you can express the opinions that have been presented in this meeting about like the importance and resonance of party, and that would be
You're
this
pausing.
particular group.
You were paused. I didn't hear you.
Am I?
Did everybody else hear?
We lost a portion.
Yeah, you got to make your point again.
Sorry, I live in the woods. It's true. So I just think we like hear back from the group, and John can express some of the opinions that have come up in this meeting to this group of people, you know, when they get together, and say that, you know, we have our preference, but we're willing to hear what they come up with, especially knowing that how hard they're working on this particular project. But I think we need to know more.
Yes, and these what you all have discussed has been talked about, hence why we have the second meeting tomorrow. To go over these things and look at different locations and go through the same type of conversation with the actual people who are donating this and with the mayor to see how we proceed as far as the information we give to them, because we're just giving the information. Like, we can give them 3 locations, but it's ultimately up to the town to decide. And if we throw it to the town and one of them is a foot of High Street, they might just say, well, we ain't got to worry about that because it's the county. You know what I mean? So we're going to give all those options, but I want to make sure we hear tomorrow all of the options. And then we can, touch bases after that. But yes, Jen and Bishop Fisher, those points have been raised. They were some of the first points raised. And these citizens have been doing their due diligence on this for, I don't know if it's 2 or 3 years, but they have been running the ringer with this. So they're at the point where they kind of know exactly, the handful of ideas of locations where they want and what it's going to mean to where it is. It's just us working with them to advise the town on what's the best possible outcome. Any comments, questions, concerns? So how about this? Until we get more information tomorrow, what I'll do is send the email out to the committee on Friday, and we can hold. Are we allowed to hold a vote via email? Not sure either. So what I can do is I can raise those questions to the mayor tomorrow. But this is something that even though I'm pretty sure we all feel like this is something that we need to advise them on, well, maybe we can advise them and let it be predicated on the town to make the decision of the location. Like, let them do their job, but we gave them the information and the input that we had. Is that good for everybody or no?
I like it.
Jen?
I don't, I'm going back and forth on, do we let the town decide? Like,
they have to, though. It's their plan.
No, they do, but it's our job to make a strong recommendation. And so we're not all in this meeting that you're having tomorrow. So, it's hard to understand or know, other than what we've all read so far, what is most important to those individuals who've put all this time and work into this. But if at the end of that meeting, there's a difference of opinion, I think we should talk about it. And it's our job to make a recommendation, even if that's not the easiest path.
Let me ask this part. Who is in favor on, if it gets to that part, or it might be premature to even talk about this, but who is in favor of taking it to the county commissioners if it goes that far? By show of hands.
Okay.
Jen, anybody else? Yay, nay? How do you all want to proceed from this moment?
We have do we think that the current leadership would be amenable to that type of marker, given some of their previous commentary about there not being racism in the county along those lines?
And I think that's where we get into murky water as a representation of the town, putting the town in a position to play politics back and forth with the commissioners. I don't know if, all we're going to do is give the information, our opinions, our input, but ultimately, I don't know if that's a decision they would willingly make. So it's just leaving it up to them.
As best as I can understand, this committee doesn't make policy, it makes recommendations. Am I right or wrong?
Correct. That's correct.
All right. So if we're doing our due diligence like we're doing, and we're expressing our interests, concerns, desires, and I think that's about as far as we really can go without creating more trouble for ourselves. I think the power of decision is then out of our hands.
I agree. Like, once we do our job and get the information and give recommendations, statistics, facts, after we vet all this information, ultimately, once we advise, that's all we're doing. Hey, we think this might be a good idea, or we think this might be a great suggestion. Once it's on, the burden is on the town, we have nothing to say. They can just shoot it down immediately. Do we want to vote or wait for after the meeting tomorrow for more information and then add that to the list of things for Monday?
I think we need to
Can we-
wait. So,
Can we make a motion that we support the community moving, or the town moving forward with the markers? And then, dependent on, further information about location, like, could we put a stake in the ground and say, yes, these markers should move forward, and final location to come?
I'm on the fence about it.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence. Like I get your point. I do, but it's not, it's the town's choice, not ours. Like, I don't want to put the town in a position to fight with the county commissioners based off a plan, and then the plan stops working because all of us in the community turn back to the arguing match.
I might be super Pollyanna about this, but I really would be
SAT.
shocked if this was a fight. I would be really shocked.
I wouldn't.
Like,
be.
I know that they've done and said some pretty crazy stuff, but I would be really, really shocked if the town council went to the county commissioners and said, we would like to use this space for this purpose, and they shot that down. I would be really surprised.
Is there anything preventing us from saying in this process that while the Equity Advisory Committee recommends that the waterfront is our primarily, our favored location, we defer to the town or the marker group in the one that, they ultimately decide? And that way, at least we've been able to say that we think that that would be good, but we're not preventing them or chaining them to that location if it's going to stop down the process, slow down the process, and prevent them from actually getting a marker at all.
Kate, I think, Kate, that position would put us in a position of goodwill, not just in this decision, but going forward. It simply says, these are the recommendations that we're making, and we believe this is the best location for it. However, we're going to defer to you, which says that we're really a good citizen in the process of the decisions that's being made in the town. So even if we don't win this particular argument, if you could say that, it puts us in a good position to say, these are reasonable, rational folks that have thought things out. They have a great interest and a passion, and this is their strongest recommendation, but they're letting us make that decision. Because obviously there's a number of people that have put a lot of time and effort into these various locations. So obviously there's passion and energy around it. The possibility could be that it could turn to one of those back and forth lobbying things. But that position simply says, this is what the advisory committee thinks. We believe that this is the primary location that we think it should go in. However, we defer to you.
I think that's what we are going to do, right? Yay, nay? Yes.
Yes.
I motion that we. I'm not going to motion. Do anybody want a motion, or do we want to table this discussion after tomorrow's meeting?
Table
Yep.
it. Let's find out more, John. Let's see what's going on next. But you know how we feel. We've talked about it.
Yes, yeah, and I don't think we're against, the signage. I think what we're doing is turning into the council. We're talking about things that we have no control over, but we're still giving our opinion and thoughts on that. So we'll table it pending tomorrow. The last thing we want to advise them on is adding a new member. We had a member step down. The new member, the name came up, is Megan White. She's someone who's a part of Washington College SGA. She's attends all the town council meetings. She's been involved with the Chestertown Unites plans since November or December, whichever one when we first initially put this out. And she's also a cornerstone at the college as far as the relationship between students, community, the town, the plan. She's very much in the loop. That would be a suggestion, unless you all have other people that you might want to suggest or might bring up. But the suggestion is for adding a youth and a student from the college representation. So that way the college feels like we're being a two-way street in our partnership or efforts to say we're working together. That's why her name was brought up. Thoughts, questions, concerns? Do everyone know who Megan White is?
No.
She was on our,
She presented it, I think it was the last meeting.
yes, she,
Okay,
the community dialogue meeting.
yes,
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 that young lady.
okay.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, the question I have is, who stepped down, John?
Latoya Johnson.
Okay. Do you happen to know any reason
reason?
why?
No.
Okay, okay.
Questions, comments, concerns?
I think having a Washington College student represented and a younger person represented on the committee, I mean, given the amount of work that the students at the college have already been doing to participate in the EAC and to build bridges, is just really wonderful and exciting. So, you know, it seems like they're ready to work hard, and it'd be wonderful to have a student, you know, be able to take back information from these meetings to get their perspective, but also to have sort of that communicating voice between the students at the college and the work that we're doing here for the town.
If you'll make that motion, I'll second it.
Yeah, I just want to voice my appreciation, John, for the way that you've engaged with the students. They have long been ignored, but are a visionary and a powerful group of people, and an important connection for us. I just thank you. Sorry, Reverend.
You're welcome. And a lot of that connection comes from Megan White. She took the initiative to reach out. She takes the initiative to follow the plan. She takes the initiative to come to the council meetings. So, I mean, for me, she was a no-brainer unless someone wanted to, because one of the things we did here in the community was, you know, just me saying, hey, who's interested is why not add someone Black? Normally I would open that up to a very big conversation, be like, yeah, that's a good point. But because she's been so committed in the fight of what we're doing and the connection in the building, I think without raising the issue of color, she's been head and shoulders above the rest if I'm going to advise or suggest anyone. That's just me.
Kate, I'm waiting for you to make that motion.
Bless you. Oh, we didn't hear you because you was on mute. Do we got to still bless you?
Yeah. I mean, we have a
Okay.
bishop on the call. I better pick up blessed. Bishop Fisher, I move to make Megan White the newest member of the Equity Advisory Committee.
Well, I enthusiastically second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? The record show we advise the town on a new equity advisory member, Megan White. So a recap, we're going to learn a little bit more about solicitation. We're voting yes to the book club, yes to the trainings. Community dialogue, we're voting yes to that. Historical signage based upon tomorrow's meeting, with the note of location being something that the EAC wants to further articulate or conversate about before we advise that to the town. Because we don't have to do this meeting and advise it, we can do the one after for the town council. So we can actually talk about this again in a month or so if we need be. And then yes to advising the town to appoint a new member, Megan White from Washington College SGA. Plan implementation. We are Scheduling the book club for Cheryl and Eiffels on the courthouse lawn. I'm working with the James Taylor Remembers Coalition on making our calendar coincide so that way if Cheryl and Eiffel's interested in coming, we can make sure we make the most of that opportunity and have her be a part of that. And also, we're planning it for a lot of the things we discussed today on how to integrate the community in ways to have them involved in something that we think a lot of people will be involved in. Historic videos coming up. The Community Dialogue Part 1, still in editing. For new business, right here, the historic signage. We'll be talking about that a little more moving forward. And then advising the town and council Monday, the 15th, of the things we voted to approve for advisory. And then also a representative from the Black Union of Kent County next month to talk about the Juneteenth planning and the expectations provided through them sponsoring and organizing that event. Any questions, comments, concerns? Public comment. Any individual who wants to speak gets 2 minutes uninterrupted to talk about the agenda. Do we have anyone who wants to comment? I'll give a moment for you to message or sign if you want to speak. Let the record show we have no one for public comment. I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.